going on, everybody? Welcome to the Backpacking Podcast. As always, John Kelly here with Jeremiah Stringer right over here on this side. Let me tell you, that is really hard to do, Jeremiah, because I actually point to the opposite side that you're on. So
I'm backward.
Like I'm pointing right at you.
I'm backward.
Yep, you are. So listen, man, it's been an interesting few weeks since the last time we actually filmed any of these things or recorded any of these. And you, my friend, did something a little risky out in the woods. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how risky it was, but we had a polar vortex come through not too long ago. Like the whole south and east, I think, got slammed. Got a lot of weather we're not used to. I mean, it was like...
Yeah, it was 9 degrees below zero in Nicholasville.
Yeah, it was insanely cold. And as we were coming out of it, I got a text message from my buddy Jonathan, and did we have him on here, Trailblazing Hope? I'm pretty sure that we had him on here not too long ago. Yeah, so y'all feel free to go back and listen to that, but that's who I went with. And my plan was to kind of go backpacking during my Christmas break because I'm a teacher, so we get a couple weeks off. And then I was going to go backpacking with Mr. Backpacking with Jason, sir. But he was sick, and then you also had Christmas in there. And then I think he was also behind with work because he missed the whole week because he'd been sick. So Jonathan just texted me out of the blue, and he's like, hey, I'm planning on going to the Gorge, these dates. He's like, you free? I was like, well, I was planning on going with Jason, but I think he's been sick. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. And so long story short, Jonathan and I got out there and spent 3 days and 2 nights. Now, the first day, we're heading toward the end of the polar vortex. So I think the high was like 30 degrees that day.
Oh, that's not too bad. See, when you told me before we started the show that you were out in the polar vortex, I was thinking you were out there in the negative temperatures.
Oh, I don't know if I have the gear for that. I mean, I could do the 0 degree underquilt.
Well, you could stack quilts.
Yeah. I could stack quilts. I could do my 40M on 0. But
you'd be...
I decided to take the hammock, and we're going out there for 3 days. And the first day we did Tar Ridge West.
Oh, yeah.
And we decided to camp out there that night. Now, here's the problem. So Jonathan, he was busy until a certain time and couldn't make it until, I don't think he could leave his house till like 10 or 11 a.m. And he lives up in like the middle of Ohio. So,
like near Dayton, right?
Yeah, he lives outside of Dayton. So that's like 2 to 3 hours away from where we were going to be backpacking. And I was on Christmas break, so I could go anytime I wanted. But I was like, okay. So he got held up in some traffic and kind of got a late start and stuff. So long story short, by the time he got there, we had a plan. We was like, let's check out Eagle's Nest. And we had some other stuff we wanted to do, but we ran out of time. So we got on top of Eagle's Nest, and at that point, it was like, I don't know, 3:30 in the afternoon. And
you got what, an hour and a half of light left?
Yeah, it's wintertime, so you lose light. I think sunset was at like 5:20 or something like that Eastern Standard Time. So that means twilight was kind of, I don't know, 5:40, 6 o'clock, somewhere in there, somewhere before 6. And we were standing on top of Eagle's Nest, and we still had to hike back to the vehicle and then drive to Tar Ridge and then, get all of our stuff because we just had our day packs on.
It's like on the other end of the gorge, right?
No, it's still on the northern end. They're about 20 minutes or so away.
Yeah.
So we still had that 20-minute drive. Plus, I don't know about you, and you can tell me, but whenever I get to like a trailhead or something, I feel like it still takes me 20 minutes to like get my head wrapped around everything, make sure everything's squared away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So I still had that. I still had that like 20 minutes that I still had to like make sure all my stuff's good to go, make sure my food's packed right, and if you stopped and got anything at the store, you got to pack that. And anyway, we got to
9:30 p.m. and you're finally.
Well, we were losing light. Once we got there, it was around 5. And we
now, for people who are interested in the Red River Gorge, Tar Ridge is kind of not a well-known place. There's a little parking area.
Uh-huh.
You can go across the street, And which one is that? Is that west or is that east?
That's the west side if you go across the street.
Now you realize, just throwing this out there to you, if you'd gone to the east side, you could walk 100 yards and there's a beautiful campsite right there on that hill.
Well, I camped on the east side before, and I was like, we could go to the east side, and I knew on the west side there's a great campsite, but I thought it was quite the walk, and I looked on All Trails, and it looked like there's some flat areas, but for anybody that's been backpacking or looked at terrain on a map, like it can be flat on the map, but then you get there and it's not really friendly to camping. You know what I mean?
One of the things of if you're not actually looking on a topo map, a lot of times you're not really seeing.
Well, see, I was looking on the topo map. I was looking on yeah, because you can see the elevation by looking at how close the lines are. The closer the lines, the steeper.
Right.
So there was definitely some flat areas, but then there wasn't established campsites, and which you could camp up there, I assume. But
yeah,
I was like, let's just hit the first campsite. I didn't want to do the east side again because we'd already done it. So we kept going, and we got like half a mile in, and I was like, well, if we hit the first campsite and it's like half a mile in.
My daughter just made an appearance.
Our second appearance of the podcast saga.
Yes. She had a little magic wand she wanted to show me. So,
oh, that's so sweet.
All right.
So, anyway, like half a mile in, we still hadn't hit a campsite. And I was like, dude, I don't know. Are we going to have to go all the way to the end? And there was a set of footprints leading out that way. And there's one vehicle parked at the trailhead or whatever you want to call it, that little parking area that you just described.
Right.
And we kept walking. We saw the footprints and we was like, what if we get out here and it's dark and the people who had parked right next to where we parked are out here at the only campsite? Because once we got like a mile in, I was like, dude, I mean, it's going to be dark here in 20 minutes. We're basically committed. So we had to walk like a mile to a mile and a half, get to our campsite. Luckily, there was nobody there. And we just kind of threw everything up. And here's the worst thing. It is looking for wood whenever it's 20 degrees outside and it's dark.
Can I tell you a little secret?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody's listening, you're going to hear something amazing. If you were to go to that other campsite, there is somebody has chopped down like 3 or 4 trees.
Oh, you are lying. I'm
not kidding you. And so there's these logs. And if you can bring stuff to split that wood, you'll have wood for weeks.
Well,
and I'm telling you, it's crazy because it's like we went to Tar Ridge East one time just to go. We'd never been to Tar Ridge, and so we headed up the trail, and we didn't get, like I said, 100 yards up the trail, and it looks like a campsite up on the hill, and we go up there, and it's this beautiful campsite with a great fire pit and everything, and we ended up camping. I've camped there twice now, but the last time I was there with my buddy Sean. We were kind of doing a shakedown hike before we got on the Foothills Trail. And so we were camping there that night just to kind of get his gear dialed in his new tent and all that kind of stuff, the one that leaked. And so, yeah. So we went in behind the campsite and we're looking for wood. And I started crawling through these thickets and stuff. And all of a sudden, boom, logs everywhere. Like they were cut with chainsaws. I mean, like massive logs. Where if someone will go back in there, pull some of that out and split it, I'm not kidding, man. You'd have enough firewood for weeks.
Well, I should have brought my splitting maul, and then we would have been set.
Yeah, and just future knowledge for you. And anybody who's listening, there's wood up there in them hills. So,
well, I brought my little camp saw. I got this sponsor video that's going to come out later this month. That's by this saw. So I had to try out my saw. I had to get me some B-roll of using the saw so I can put it in the video. Right. And everything worked out, but I got to tell you, I'd say the worst part is like there's 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground. Okay? So that's how we saw the footprints. And your feet, you're walking in the snow and it's not a big deal till you stop walking. And then it what?
Then your feet cool down.
Your feet cool down, and what do you think happens to all the snow that's on the outside of your shoes?
Oh, it melts.
Yeah.
Melts,
Yeah.
brother.
So at my house, I wasn't thinking that it's a totally different world whenever we got to the gorge. Because at my house, there was like no snow. I mean, there was snow, but the roads were totally clear. The yard was, you're seeing big patches of grass. So I didn't think a whole lot about it. And then whenever I got there, I was like, dude, I should have worn my insulated boots that I took to New Hampshire for that snowshoeing trip. And totally waterproof. I could have put my snow gaiters on and had dry feet the whole time, but I'm an idiot, and you learn.
Well, and that's because of that's the reason you're here. You've got all that is because of all the shade.
Yeah.
Like a lot of direct sunlight melting that snow, so the snow was able to stay a lot longer.
Yeah, it was quite a bit more snow than what we had at the house. But anyway, we camped there that night. We made the fire. Everything worked out. We hiked out in the morning, and we planned on going to check out Cloud Splitter. That was like the one thing that Jonathan wanted to see. And then we say it again.
The rope's gone.
The rope was gone. We hiked, we parked the vehicles. We drove over there, parked the vehicles at the shortcut, and then we hiked up the hill. And it was like a half-mile hike up. And then what do you know? The whole side, not only is the rope gone, you could go up, you could scramble up without the rope. But there's two other problems. One, I guess that we were on, I guess it'd be the south side, right? Where the sun, you'd be getting the least amount of sun. So It must have been a kind of the south side of that rock that you climb up. Well, it's still all covered in snow and ice. So,
man.
And then the other problem was, there's like a little place that you can kind of shimmy up the crack and pull yourself up. But my shoulder is still injured.
Oh man, that stinks.
So and it looked like it was all dug out around the crack. So there's nowhere to get my footing. So I was like, I got one arm. There's no way I'm going to be able to get up there. And even if I get up there, I can't walk around the edge. Because if you crawl up the right side, you have to walk around the edge of Cloud Splitter to actually get on top of it. And that was all icy and snowy. And I was like,
it's ice, and that's just dumb. Don't be dumb.
Yeah, and I didn't have micro spikes or anything like that. So poor Jonathan, that was the only thing he wanted to see, and we got up there, and I couldn't take him up there. So we had to hike back down to the vehicle, and then we went around. We went up Indian Staircase with our backpacks. And, dude, I weighed my backpack. I'm going to give you one guess. You guess how much my backpack weighed. Remember, I'm going back to the vehicle to refuel. So I can, I don't have to carry it on the day hike stuff. How much you think my backpack weighed?
Like full, like with all your gear in and everything?
It's the Hyperlight backpack, that 70-liter one that I bought.
It had 70 liters in it?
I couldn't close it. I think I got a picture of it. I couldn't close it.
I'm going to guess 39 pounds.
Oh, bro. 48 and a half.
Holy cow, dude. I don't know if y'all knew this, but Jeremiah is not what we would call ultralight. Gosh, dude, that's twice of anything I've carried in the last 6 months.
Well,
that's not the weight.
I also didn't bring my big camp chair. I brought my little one. So
what was all the weight?
Well, now I weighed this on the first day, and I took all my food on that first night in. Because, you get out there, it's night one, and you have I kind of have my food planned out. Like I do a little grid, and I do Friday, Saturday, Sunday across the top. In this case, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then along the side, I do like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. Well, you get out there the first night and you don't know what you want. So I like to take all my food because then you can just be like, well, what do I want the most? Well, the first night I'd packed a steak. I had packed... Yeah, I took steak. I took mashed potatoes. I brought string cheese. I brought bacon bits, and I brought naan bread, like 4 pieces of it, like a big pack.
It's good stuff, man.
Oh, it's great. And that was my food for the first night. And the second night, I can't remember what I brought. It was real food, but I can't remember what I cooked. Anyway, I had all that food.
For 2 nights.
That was for 2 nights, 3 days. There may have been some adult beverages in there. So those cans, those weigh quite a bit.
You carried 50 pounds up Indian Staircase.
Well, I'd already eaten the steak. I brought a 1 pound ribeye, and I gave about half of it to Jonathan. And
Okay.
I'd eaten all the food from the first day and about half the food from the second day. So
Wow.
I don't know if it's quite 50 pounds up Indian Staircase. Jonathan didn't even take his backpack off. You know, you kind of take your backpack off and hand it up on the worst part.
Yeah.
Dude, he just hauled right up it, left his backpack on and everything. So I took
we
him.
even said when he was on here that he's kind of like the supermodel of backpacking. Like he's kind of the stud.
He is, dude, and his backpack probably weighed 25 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he does it. Oh, I forgot to tell you, both nights we were dry camping. So I carried 4 liters of water each night into camp. So that 4 liters of water, how much weight is that? 2.2, 8.8 pounds?
Yeah, about 9 pounds.
Yeah, about 9 pounds of water. So that right there made up, I think, the bulk of the weight.
Gosh, man.
But long story short, we had a great time. I took him around to that campsite. You know, there's that big campsite if you walk around the rim of Indian Staircase. But you remember where me, you, I think Jason Wish was out there, Jason.
Yeah. Up above the goat path.
Yeah. But there's another campsite. Remember we walked around with Jason Wish over there and we were looking at Cloud Splitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we camped at, is where that view is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
still
really
wasn't. Cool. Jonathan was so mad. Well, he wasn't actually mad, you know, but he was aggravating me because we passed up one campsite on top of Indian Staircase that had a bunch of firewood and a bunch of it was already cut. And
that campsite right at the top, are you talking about the one right above Indian Staircase?
It's above the Indian Staircase, but it's to the left a little bit.
Well, there's one right above Indian Staircase. Like when you climb up and you just keep going.
Oh, right, yeah.
Awesome campsite.
Yeah, if you keep going that way and you hang a right, you can do the alternate, Indian Staircase alternate.
And there's some views. Like there are some views when you come down there in the morning. You know how like a lot of places are like this, but at least in the Gorge, you always have that fog lifting in the morning, so it looks like the valley's smoky.
Yeah.
And those views coming out of that hike has so many of those views on it.
Did you go down the alternate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've only been up it only one time.
I think up it's probably better.
Yeah, it's, you know what's weird is Indian Staircase, after you've done it, I think I've done it like, I don't know, 5 to 10 times somewhere in there. I've lost count, but now it's like not super easy, but it's not intimidating. Because the first time you do it, like the first time my wife had a panic attack when we were going up it.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Jason and I talked about this actually the day that remember when we all did it together. And I didn't find it intimidating at all.
The first time I did.
Yeah, and yet that was the thing he told me. He said there's a lot of people that go up there and they just won't do it.
They'll turn around. They'll literally turn around and walk the path back and go around.
So I've just decided something about myself.
What's that?
I'm bat crap crazy. Like that's because like stuff like that just doesn't. It never bothers me. Today I was out at it for a retreat thing with people from my church this weekend.
Yeah,
out at the Natural Bridge State Park, and staying in one of the cabins up in the woods. And I took 2 people and we went on a hike. They'd never been to Hanson's Point before. I took them out there. No joke. One of the guys comes out of the woods, walks 10, 15 feet and goes, whoa, and walks right back into the woods and just waits for us.
What do you mean?
And like he got vertigo or something. Like he walked out and because of there not being anything on either side or something, he just it messed with him. And then the other lady that was with us, we get to the end of Indian Staircase.
Indian Staircase or Hanson's Point?
Hanson's Point. We get to the end of Hanson's Point, and she's standing out there. And I told her I'd get pictures for her husband. You know, so I snapped a couple pictures of her real quick. And I said, "You ought to stand closer to the edge." And she goes, "I can't do that." And I had to walk her over and show her that like there's like another ledge like less than 10 feet below that. You know, that she's going to be okay.
It'll catch you if you fall.
But I'll stay. I don't freak out about standing on those ledges and stuff. So I'm thinking there must be something wrong inside my head.
Do you think that, what do you think about the fear of heights situation there? You think it's like most of the time it's something in your childhood that had to do with heights and it's kind of traumatic and now you're scared of heights? Or you think that's just a normal, innate human like reaction just to protect yourself as an animal from heights
Maybe,
or a
maybe. I don't know.
combination?
My fear of heights only kicks in when I feel like I'm on something that's unsteady. Like if I'm on top of Hanson's Point, I'm not worried about Hanson's Point crumbling and falling, or like somebody shaking it. You know what I mean? Like, so I
Yeah.
don't really afraid of heights when I'm there. I'm more afraid of heights probably on a roller coaster than I am doing that. Because you get those roller coasters, you get there and the whole thing's shaking, and you know that almost every roller coaster at some point malfunctions. And so like I think for me, practical fear steps into the play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Practical. That's a good way of putting it.
Practical fear. But I think a lot of people are scared of heights for different reasons. And I'm sure, like you said, a lot of people it's probably just for the simple fact that when they were kids, something happened
Dude,
and freaked them out.
whenever I was a kid, this was like elementary, middle school age. I
Mhm.
competed in Science Olympiad, which I think I told you about before. And if you place first in an event at the regional level, which we had it at a local college, you have like locals and then regional, where your region competes. And then if you
Yeah.
place first, you can go to state. Even if like your whole school isn't eligible to go to state, you can go to state since you placed first in the event in your region. And then you just compete in that event instead of like as your team or whatever. And so I got first place in, I don't remember. I think it might have been meteorology or astronomy or something. And me and my partner, it's like a team event. We got that first place and we got to go to state to WKU. And then I remember there was a
Western Kentucky University.
Western Kentucky University, which is also where I got my bachelor's degree from. So shout out to them. Um, I
Hilltopper.
climbed the Hilltoppers. Go Tops. I climbed up. I can't remember what building it was. I think they tore it down my second year while I was there. Anyway, the point is that I went up to like, I don't know, maybe the fourth or seventh floor or something. And I'm from small town USA. You know, there's not really 3-story buildings, 4-story buildings in my hometown. And I climbed up there and I got real close to the window and I looked down and I freaked out a little bit. And then ever since then, all the heights, I think I was scared of heights. I think that's what did it for me.
That's interesting.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I do know that the Hilltoppers mascot looks like Red Grimace.
He does, dude. He's like a big old red chicken nugget with legs.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's the worst. It's maybe the worst mascot in all of sports.
Oh, I
Like,
disagree with that. Did you see TCU's mascot?
it's a horned frog.
You like that?
I like it better than the way they play football.
Bro, I don't want to kick them while they're down. But that
I'm
was
not
embarrassing.
down, but did you know that was for people who are listening, we are football fans. And last night, if you're not somebody who watches football, last night Texas Christian University played Georgia University, the University of Georgia,
University of Georgia.
University of Georgia for the national championship game
It was a
and
rout.
lost 65-7. The worst loss in any bowl game, period, in history. Not the worst loss in a championship game, the worst loss ever for a bowl game. Did you know they're also number 5 on that list? TCU is
Number 5 on what list?
on the list of worst losses in a bowl game.
Oh, they're number 5 and number 1?
Number 1, but number 5 was in 1920, and they lost to Center College from Danville, Kentucky.
Oh my gosh.
How about that? There's a little deep dive for you on some football knowledge.
I won't
Has nothing
spend
to do with backpacking.
No, I won't spend too long on football, but
No.
here's what I think. Georgia has grown men playing for them, and those teams outside of the SEC, unless you're like a powerhouse like Ohio State or maybe Michigan or somebody like that, the level of talent is so different in those other conferences. TCU, they didn't face 320-pound grown men on the defensive line all season.
Well, they did the week before, but I think what happened was they got themselves so hyped up that they were able to pull off the upset,
Uh-huh.
but they didn't have the energy to pull that off 2 weeks in a row.
I think almost 10 out of 10 times a level 1 school is going to be a level 3 school. And I would say, like, I'll wrap up my football talk with this. Okay. I think the top tier talent like Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee earlier this year in the SEC.
Tennessee was overrated. Don't count them with that.
No, they weren't overrated, dude.
Obviously, they were by the games they lost by the end of the season.
Well, their quarterback got hurt.
That doesn't mean anything.
He was a leader in the Heisman race.
He's not that good.
Where would Georgia be without Stetson Bennett? Anyway, my point is that the top level talent like Georgia and Alabama, those are like those are tier 1 schools.
Don't you keep my Buckeyes out of this?
Buckeyes, they're up there. They're like borderline tier 1, tier 2. They could win national championship.
Borderline. What happened in the game against Georgia this year?
Georgia got a win, I'm pretty sure.
Was it 1 point?
Yeah, Ohio State, you're all's kicker, dude. He shanked that kick.
That wasn't the kicker. It was the holder, actually. But that's a story for another day, too.
Yeah, put it on the holder. Laces out, Dan.
Well, if you saw his reaction after the game, you'd realize it definitely was the holder. So
I feel so bad for those kids, dude. Imagine being 19 years old, what kind of messages you get on social media after a botched hold. Anyway, my point is that TCU's a tier 3 school. Okay?
Yeah.
They can beat a tier 2 school like Michigan, but a tier 1 school like Bama or Georgia, maybe not Bama this year, but it's so hard. So hard as a tier 3 school to beat a tier 1. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's my football analysis.
I'd call Michigan a 3 or tier 2.
They're up there.
I'd say they're tier 1 this year.
It depends on the year.
I don't like Michigan, and I'll say that.
I think it depends on the year. Yeah, because you bleed red, right? Is that what Ohio State people say?
Like a human being, yes.
Oh, speaking of, dude.
Kentucky aliens, that bleed blue. I don't understand that whole thing.
We bleed blue, but it's a hard year to be a Cats fan. I'm not going to lie. It's a hard year. But speaking of Ohio State, dude, there was this company that makes this jacket. They're called Goat something. I can't remember. But the material, I need to look. The material, it kind of reminds me of the same stuff as that grid that Melanzana uses.
Grid fleece?
Yeah. So they sent me a jacket. Well, first they sent me an email. And they're like, hey, do you want to do a collaboration or whatever? And I think this is a cottage company. I haven't researched them a whole lot. And American company, cottage company. And I was like, you can send it, but I don't know if it's going to appear on my channel. And they're like, okay, we'll send you one. What size do you want? And I told them, and they sent it. It showed up, and I really like the jacket, but I don't like the color scheme. Okay? Dark gray on the chest area.
Yeah.
Light gray on the left sleeve.
Okay.
Red on the right sleeve.
That is a beautiful jacket.
I'll text you a picture of it, dude. I said, this is Ohio State, a Louisville. I don't know if
it would have to be black if it was Louisville.
Well, it's more crimson than like bright red. So I don't know if that's a Alabama jacket. Are you all? Is Ohio State?
It could be EKU.
EKU. There you go. Yeah, I almost went there.
There you go.
So I was just going to say that because it reminded me of Ohio State. But you mentioned Hanson's a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So I took Mom out for her birthday for a birthday lunch. And I was like, do you want to do something else? She's like, let's just eat. And I was like, okay. But I would really like to show her. I took her a couple of years ago up the Pinnacles in Berea. And it's like a mile straight up mostly to one of them. And she had a pretty tough time doing that.
When you first start, that first climb is just
brutal. Just straight up.
But once you're up there, it's easy from that point forward.
I totally agree. But I'm wondering if I could take her to Hanson's.
Yes.
You think that she could make that okay, even though she struggled with the Pinnacles? We might have talked about this before.
Way harder than Hanson's, I think.
Okay.
I think it's way harder. It's way more of a steep incline than what you're going to deal with at Hanson's Point. Hanson's Point, you've got like on the way out to Hanson's, there's one or two little hills that aren't too bad. On the way back, you've got one that could be a little rough for people who don't hike a lot.
You talking about the very end?
No, there's one like you end up climbing up rocks and stuff. I just climbed it yesterday, and it's the only one that if you're hiking with somebody who doesn't hike a lot, that might be a little challenging, but not like terrible. Like they'll just get to the top, catch your breath, and keep going. They'll be fine.
Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
wanting to take her out to a really pretty spot, but I'm always looking. I try to look for less than a mile, and it's flat, and it has a great view or something.
Now see, that's where Hanson's Point is sneaky because it's actually 2.5 miles.
That was the other thing, because I was talking to Bridget about this, and bless Mom's heart, I don't know if she can walk 5 miles through the woods. I mean, it might be a little tough. So I was talking to Bridget about it, and I was running this by her, and she's like, "Well, I think it's a good idea, but that's like 2.5 miles out there." And I was like, yeah, that is a long way. And there's not really like a great view or something along the way. So it's not like you're going to stop and be like, well, this is pretty good consolation.
There's nothing. It's all trees. So it's green tunnel the whole way.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll do that or maybe do something else. There's some stuff pretty local because I live right on the border of Dana Boone National Forest.
What's the one that, you see the rock from Hanson's, the one that's got the fence around it. What
Chimney.
Is that?
Chimney Top.
Yeah, Chimney Top. You can probably take it to Chimney Top.
Yeah, you can almost drive out there.
That one's easy, and that's got a beautiful view.
Yeah, it was closed whenever I was there. I don't know if they just closed it because it's wintertime and the snow, but
yeah,
it was closed. There was one vehicle parked in front of the fence, and I guess they walked out there.
Yeah, my guess would be they had it closed because of snow, but right now it'd probably be open.
Dude, last year, me and Jason went out, and do you know where the Rock Bridge area is?
Yeah.
Okay, so we went out there. You turn on the road, and on the right, there's like a parking area, and you take that road all the way down to where like Rock Bridge is, because we were wanting to do Swift Camp Creek area.
Right.
Okay, well, the only place we could park was the very first parking area. That's literally right across the road from, I don't know if that's like a cabin or I don't know. I think there's some campsites and stuff out there that the guy rents out. There's like a field right next to it. But that very first parking area, me and Jason had to park there. And this is one of the worst things too, dude. It's cold. You're like, well, we're not going to have to backpack in very far. So I'm going to take a heavy backpack. And then you get there and the gate is closed and you have to hike 3 miles on the road just to get to the place where you're going to start on the trail. And then all of a sudden your 5 mile hike for the day turns into 10.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Gosh, I hated it.
Love. Listen, we got to start wrapping this thing up, but I want to talk about who our guest is next week.
Oh yeah, dude.
Because this is a big deal because he actually contacted us to get back on here, which to me, that's a huge honor. Because we have coming back to the show, a good friend of the show, Andrew Skirka, is going to be back on here Monday night. Yes. He's going to be here to chat with everybody. He's going to tell us about some stuff that's coming up that he's doing. I told him I'd love to talk about his gear loadout. I would love to know what Andrew Skirka carries in his backpack when he gets out on trail. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who like to hear that too.
That's good thinking, dude. I should prepare some questions.
I think you should. And that's going to be Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, of course. And that's going to be our first live stream of 2023.
Yeah, that's the 16th, January 16th.
It's going to be an awesome night. So make sure if you're listening right now, you go ahead and schedule it on your calendar. If you don't watch us on YouTube normally, this is a good time to do it. It's a lot of fun, a lot of chatting going on, a lot of really weird questions that happen throughout the night. But it is a great time. And like I said, it's Andrew Skirka, man. How cool, right?
He's a legend, dude. He's a legend.
Absolute legend. So super excited to have him on. Jeremiah, as always, it's just a joy to talk to you, man.
Yeah, thanks for listening to me complain for the last 30 minutes.
Hey, we've got a little bit of football. That's not something we usually talk about on this channel, but we both are big football fans, so it's kind of fun to do. So, well,
throw it in there.
For myself and for Jeremiah, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.
Yeah, adios, folks.